Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakach Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is Thamayim in Atlanta, and I've got this article pulled up. It looks like it's from Markets Insider, came out 5 days ago, and it says Russia says it's no longer scared of Western sanctions, but its economy is still under pressure. And that is prophetic. Lord will get into the scriptures to show you. It says Russia is no longer scared of Western sanctions, a Kremlin spokesperson said last week. There are signs the economy is resilient, with growth holding firm and total wealth increasing in 2022. But Western embargoes are still affecting Russia as exports plunge and the ruble craters. Embargoes goes into extra prices put on to trade goods to hurt whoever the embargo is put on. And it says Russia says it isn't afraid of sanctions anymore, but maybe it should be. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov shrugged off the West's oil and gas embargoes and financial restrictions last week, saying Russia had adapted and was no longer scared of further measures. There are some signs he's right, as the Russian economy is holding up better than expected as the war in Ukraine drags on. In October, the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, said it expects Russia's gross domestic product, or GDP, to expand by 2.2% this year, up from its previous target of 1.5%. The IMF cited the substantial fiscal stimulus packages as one factor that helped prop up growth. Moscow has pledged to spend $160 billion on its military this year, and said in September that sum would increase by a quarter in 2024. And that's got to make you think of beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. They're putting their resources into their military. It says Russia has also got richer despite the war with Ukraine, according to the UBS Global Wealth Report. The country added $600 billion in total wealth in 2022. The Swiss bank found while the number of millionaires rose 56,000 to 480,000, despite a range of sanctions targeting high net worth individuals. And that is substantial growth. That's a lot of new millionaires, which says that their economy is doing just fine. It says it's doing more than just fine. It says, however, those top line figures don't mean sanctions aren't working or that Russia's economy is in rude health. The West has made an effort to hit Moscow's oil and gas revenues in a bid to undermine Putin's war machine. And that's got to make you wonder if the West had anything to do with that pipeline destruction. And it says, and that's reflected in Russia's current account, which measures the flow of money for trade and investments. Russia's current account surplus cratered almost 80% during the first 9 months of 2023, from a year earlier to $41 billion. The country's revenues from energy, a key economic driver for the oil-rich nation, dropped 41% year-on-year to just $25 billion in seven months through July. That also has to make you wonder about that pipeline. Again, it says, meanwhile, the ruble was another sign of economic weakness. It has dropped 10% against the U.S. dollar since Vladimir Putin's invasion, and that's despite the Bank of Russia repeatedly raising interest rates in a bid to prop up the currency. And they're only doing that until the BRICS bucks hit. And so the ruble dropping isn't really that doesn't really matter at this point, because they're planning on bringing in a new currency. And it's really the US dollar that needs to be worried once that BRICS dollar, BRICS bucks hits. It says, lastly, war itself is having an impact. Russia is now facing record worker shortages because so much of its population have either been called up to fight or chosen to immigrate, according to data published in April. So while the Kremlin might be right that Russia has reasons for economic optimism, don't believe its claim that sanctions and a brutal and expensive war are not having an impact. And they're just trying to pretty much bring Russia down, show that they're not that big of an enemy, but prophetically, Russia is the largest enemy to the West, and especially Babylon the Great, which is America, USA, and the land of Israel, because Russia brings those places down. So we will get into the scriptures. We're only going to do this here in Isaiah 13 and 17. And right above it, it says, Babylon will fall to the Medes. Babylon being America, and the Medes being the Russians. They're also called Gog and Magog within the scriptures. But here in Isaiah 13, they're called the Medes because they occupy some of the land that the ancient Medo-Persian Empire occupied, but also because they bring Babylon down, and there's no new thing under the sun. So think to ancient Babylon, it was brought down by the Medo-Persian Empire, and the current Babylon will be brought down by the Russians, or Gog and Magog, or also the Medes, because there's no new thing under the sun. And so it says, Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. That's the Russians. And in Ezekiel 38, the Lord said he's put his hooks into their jaws. So he is driving them. He's controlling them in their movements. It says, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. And that was, when I read that article, this is the first verse that I thought of. They shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. And so none of these different embargoes or different sanctions that are being placed on them are going to affect them, and nor will they stop them from eventually shooting nukes onto Babylon, onto America. It says, their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children. And when it's time for them to let those ICBMs, those nukes off onto America, yeah, there's children, there's young women, there's people here, but they are going to have no regard. They're not going to care. They're still going to let them loose onto their enemy, America, Babylon the Great. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And Sodom and Gomorrah went out with fire, and Babylon the Great, America, will go out with fire. And it's that golden cup in the Lord's hand, but it's time for him to put away that cup, and the sins of this place need to be cleansed, and they'll be cleansed with fire from those nukes. It says, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. And that's how you know it's talking about America and not ancient Babylon, because ancient Babylon, in I think it's Daniel chapter 5, it tells you that the kingdom was translated from the Babylonians to the Medo-Persians, and there were a few little skirmishes, but it was no great catastrophe like what's coming to the US of A. It says, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. And so none of the other heathen nations will be setting up shop and making money from this place. It's going to go down, and it will never be inhabited ever again. Ancient Babylon still exists. That's modern day Iraq. But this new Babylon, this mystery Babylon, America, once it goes down, it'll never get up again. It'll be an example of where wickedness once dwelt. But the Lord's coming with righteousness, and there will be no place for wickedness. So this has to be taken out, as well as the Edomites' power that has to be taken away from them, because they only rule in wickedness. And so I thought that article was pretty interesting and aligned with the scriptures. Lord willing, that was edifying. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, or Chakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone, and shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.